Hey guys and girls, it's Blackjack with 396 Guitars. We have the Iceman, Paul Stanley Iceman on the bench. This should be the final installment. We've done some extra work on this from the previous video. So let's get to work. I'm going to explain what we've done and where we're at now and why we did some of the things that we did to bring us to this juncture. We're going to de-string it again. Now, these strings have been on and off, on and off, on and off a couple of times because we have been working on the bridge and saddle assembly. This was the original block that I fabricated. The ferrules that go into it are oversized and I didn't like them. They were too big, and really I was only using it to mock up the guitar. This is a cheap roller assembly saddle, bridge and saddle assembly. It's not bad. I will probably reuse this on another project. This will not get reused. This was just to mock up the guitar and get us to this stage. Excuse me. What we went with is Schaller. I got a Schaller type saddle and bridge assembly, and the reason that I did that was this particular Schaller assembly, you can get lateral movement side to side for string spacing as well as height, which is of course for string action. The reason we did that, I may have just left this in there, but I realized once we got it in there, I fabricated this piece out of hardwood, put the ferrules in to accept the studs for the two-pneumatic bridge that goes thus. I got all done with it and I realized that all the strings were at an angle, not centered on the fretboard, and the reason being this ferrule's a little too far this way, this ferrule's a little too far that way. But again, that was only for mock-up, and I wasn't surprised when I saw that, but unacceptable. And so when I got the Schaller bridge that's going to actually live on this guitar, and I don't know if you've ever used that product, but let me tell you something. I stand by it. I have a lot of that product on my own bases, and I have installed those products on customer guitars many, 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 many times. High quality aftermarket stuff. Not cheap, but not super expensive either. So again, you know, string spacing wasn't quite there, and you know what a nut I am. I want my strings going right across the pole pieces. You know, from previous video, we put Seymour Duncan's, we rewired it. You know, an entire rewire job on this, and it screams. I have played this guitar before I swapped out the saddle assembly for the one that's going to live with it now. But again, through all that process, the strings have been on and off, on and off, on and off too many times, and not so much the big, heavy, you know, wound strings. I'm not worried about them, you know, going on and off multiple times, but the smaller strings, when you do that to them, they get weak at the bend points. We're going to take them off. I'm not even going to mess around. Plus, I need to get the strings out of the way, clean this guitar for the final time. We are going to put a black rhythm treble cover on there. I don't like the cream color one. I had one, and I sourced out another one that I prefer the black one on there. We're going to pull this little guy off, clean the entire body, pull all the knobs off, get the strings off, and we're going to wipe it all down. Now, one other nice little tidbit, I got digging around. This guitar has been in my studio, my work office, studio, shop for many years. Again, it's my brother's guitar, and when I got it, it had the mirror pick guard on it that screws in right there. And I go, what happened? And you know, it was all, I never really paid attention to it, I got digging around. I dug out the case that the guitar came with, that, you know, my brother bought the guitar with. Not the case for the guitar, but that's another story. I had to spend a whole afternoon repairing just the case to be able to hold and carry the guitar in. But there were pieces of the binding that are all chipped out where that screw goes in, inside the case from when he bought it, and he never knew it. They were just flopping around in there, and I got them, and I go, I just wonder if they'll fit in there. And sure enough, I pieced them together, a couple of little chiclets. So we're going to glue those in. I am going to leave the mirrored plastic pick guard off that matches this piece. I'm going to take this off to clean the guitar, but I'm going to put that back on. I'm leaving off the pick guard. I don't like it. I think it looks cleaner this way anyway. And once I glue these back in and try to at least make that big gap in its toofus there look better, I don't want to have to drive a screw in there again. That little screw hole there that holds the other part of the pick guard, it's just going to live like that. I'm not gonna bother filling it. One last thing we're going to have to do, I fabricated, and that is called fabricobbling right there. I fabricated a output jack plate, and I don't like it. All of the wood is torn out around it, and some of the binding as well is torn out around it. So that's another repair for later. It's functional right now. All I did was take an oversized output jack plate and cut it down to size to make that so that at least I can make the guitar functional. Everything else is brand new and, you know, high-end gear in it now. That will be something that I'm going to have to actually do some wood filler, because there's no place for the screw to go in to hold the output jack and attach to the body correctly. Both of the holes are completely gone. So it's wood filler, hardening, and yeah, that's a whole other repair. So let's get started. We're going to just de-string it. I'm going to pause while I de-string it. I'm going to get the knobs off, unscrew this, and we're going to show you, the new saddle assembly. I have painstakingly, and I didn't want to do this on camera because it takes a while to get the exact same measurement on the fretboard, on your strings, and the same string spacing, and to have them straight all the way across and cross over your pull pieces. It's a constant lateral movement back and forth until you get them centered where you want them. That's crucially important. And remember, we fabricated all of this stuff because the original gear was not replaceable. So I saved all the original gear. I could put this guitar in a matter of a half an hour. I could put it all back to the way it was. It was just so schwanced out of shape that it would never be able to play right. So I digress. I'm going to de-string it. We're going to get everything cleaned up, give it some love and attention, and finally call it a final cleanup and wipe down. And then we're going to attack these little issues that we wanted to fix in this video. So stand by. So yeah, we're back. You can start to see the business end of what's going on here. I'm taking this little guy off. I'm going to take the screws out and see if this thing will remove. It may be stuck on there. It's possible that after all these years it may not want to come off. Oh, popped right off. You can see how much darker it is underneath there where it's been covered. It's just plastic with a mirror finish. We're going to clean that up. We're also going to put the truss rod cover back in, of course. That's a little chippy, but it's all there. There's nothing broken on it. It's just a little chippy here. I could probably get some white out and put on the back side of it and let it dry so that it looks cleaner from the front. I think I might do that. So cleanup. There's our new Schaller bridge and saddle assembly. If you look really closely, you can see the ground wire that goes from that pickup solders to the back of the pickup, goes through down into the saddle screw that goes into the body. That's the body ground for this guitar. I was concerned about that because the old one was underneath the aluminum bridge assembly that went under there in lieu of the wood blocks that I fabricated for it, hardwood blocks. So we're going to clean up the headstock. I'm sure all the gear is tight. I've done that so many times ad nauseum. I think we're going to take this off so we can clean around it, and then we're going to put the black one on. I didn't have this super tight. On the floor she goes. Come here, you. And of course, that is not metal, it's aluminum. I think the black one looks better on there. You guys can give me comments and let me know what you think. But we'll get that on there and make it look good. Yep. Should we clean around it first? I think so. And then we'll put that on. This guitar is probably going to look better and cleaner, but I don't think it'll ever look new again. It's not that kind of guitar. It's not that it's a bad guitar, because it's not. And it was never a bad guitar. It just was in really rough shape. Electronically, mechanically, you name it. And I have brought it back to life, which is, well, sort of what I do. Oh, geez, I can already see a difference there, the way that cleaned up. There's all kinds of stuff that you don't know if it's stuck in the clear coat or scratches or what, but we're going to clean it as we go along. So I think what we're going to do, and this is always a tricky thing, because you have to make sure that the button is clocked correctly. You may have to open up the back cavity again, because probably the switch is moving around on me. Come on, you can do it, Luch. Get it started. I want to go in this motion. It has stayed. Getting it tight is the tricky part, because it does like to turn the switch, and that's what I want to try to avoid. It doesn't have to be super tight, but it's got to be snug. Test it every few turns. See, there it moved on me. And that's where you have to open it in the back. It's getting to where it's nice and tight, so, and I'm not crazy about that washer. Nope. We're going to have to open it up in the back to hold it. Yeah, of course. Why? Because my name is Blackjack. And these things only happen to me. Right? And I remember when I put these in anyway, I need to put a little piece of toothpick down in there, because they really didn't tighten up. Again, 45-year-old guitar. Screws have been in and out of there a million times, right? Alright, you. Always need some other tool. Here's my little dental pick. My little dental pick. Come out of there. So, I want to hold that from the back. This is the correct way to do this. Yes, there's a wrench for that, but okay, I don't have it. I misplaced it. I can feel it trying to turn. Perfect. Perfecto. No, not perfecto. It did turn slightly. Now perfecto. Yahtzee. All right, operation number 1 completed. Let's get this is what I need right here. Burning up a lot of video time. I don't care. Each one of these holes was kind of worn out and not really accepting the screw to tighten down. Not that this needs to be super tight, but we don't want it coming loose, right? Did it go in there? That one did, and that one did. Okay, there it is. You only need a little piece of toothpick end to go down in there. These are really tiny screws. You've seen this trick a million times. I didn't invent it, but it sure works good. Yeah. There's my head. Probably right in the way like it always is. Where are you? Oh yeah, I can feel it already. It grabbed a hold. Where before it was just loose. And remember, it's not a Harley Davidson. It doesn't have to be super tight. You don't have to torque it down to get your Craftsman J2000 torque wrench out. It just needs to be snug. Once it finds home, that's it. Stop. Doesn't need to go any further. That'll never vibrate out of there. Perfecto. Scratchy, but clean. We're going to do that part again anyway. We're not doing the back side yet. Alright, let's double check. Make sure. Yahtzee. Nothing worse than having trouble over here and you push the button and it's pointing that way. That's the way it should work, and it should be kind of in that motion. When you strum this way, you should be able to click that easily. Right? Just like a Les Paul, which this guitar kinda, sorta, I think, in my opinion, was modeled after. Because, yeah, humbuckers, too pneumatic. tailpiece. What's next? We're going to clean it. I have been waiting so long to say I'm going to clean this guitar now, because once you clean it, that means you're in the home stretch and you're on your way to being done and taking it to the studio or putting it on stage again and playing some rock and roll with it. I'm not going to remove that stuff. I went through too much trouble to get it in there and get it set to where it is going to do its thing. But I am sure she's going to shine up nicely. Anyway, I'm going to pause quickly. You can already see the difference. The guitar is starting to come alive. Am I going to get the rest of the body back to that color? No, not unless I want to take all of that stuff out and buff it again. And that ain't going to happen. Stand by. So, clean as it can be for what it is. And this was not a restoration, so don't think that this thing was ever going to get a buffing wheel on it. I don't believe in doing that kind of a restoration, especially on a guitar like this. There's a lot of fragility going on here with the binding, and that's what we're going to look at next. This little chiclet right here is going to get glued back in there one way or another because we have the pieces. Now, I did at one point test fit them, and I know that they go right in there. There is one little tiny sliver that I have no idea what it is, but I know that we can get these back in there. At least it will fill up much of that gap. And if I'm not mistaken, bear with me. I have to try to remember which way these go in there. Yeah, that one goes there because it's got a little bit of a divot where the screw went in. And then this guy fits in there just like that. Yep, and there's still a little chip out there, which I think that might be that one. But you can see at least we can get these two pieces glued in there, and it will help out immensely. At least get it back to a portion of its former glory. Now, I am not going to film this because I have to get the CA glue out, get some down in there, and place them exactly back the way they were. So I want to save a little bit of video time for that, but you see how that's going to work. I'm going to take them out one more time right there. That one goes there, and that one goes like that. Yep. All right, stand by. You see the hole, and you saw where I took the chiclets out. They're going to go back in there and fill in that spot. Stand by. So we were able to get some CA glue and put these two chiclets in right there. There was a gap, there was a gap between there and there. We put those two chiclets in. This stuff, this whole binding is so brittle. There's cracks all along it. So it's a miracle that I was able to find those two chiclets and put them back in there. And there's even little pieces of stuff that chipped off of them, and they're literally turning into powder. You know, it's so sad. But we got that part fixed. And let's get her laid back down. She's all cleaned up and she's ready to restring. And that's why I'm not going to put that's one of the main reasons why I'm not going to put the pick guard back on there, because the screw has to go in right there where I glued one of those chiclets in. Holding on to that little baggie that says Iceman binding chips. Yeah, well, that's as far as I'm willing to go with that. Cleaned up. Everything is back together. Let's restring it. I'm going to have to find some white paint of some sort. I don't want to put that on there. You can see where it's chipping out here under, and that's the paint is underneath it, because this is a clear piece of plexiglass, and I'd like to get that touched up everywhere where it's coming off before I put it back on there. I can put that on there anytime. What are these other screws for? Got spare parts. I hate when that happens. I hate when that happens. Do you guys need to see the whole restring? I don't know. This better be the last time I have to put strings on this guitar, because it's literally ready to play now. We're going to string it. I had already got the string height set. I had already gotten the lateral string spacing done all the way from the saddle, the tailpiece, saddle, and nut. So we're going to restring it and come back and play it. Stand by. So we got the strings on. I had to readjust the saddle, bridge, action a little slightly, and I had to actually get back in there and do that because I've had this guitar apart for so long. We had to readjust that and that. The string spacing, I double checked it. That did not move, but the height, I had to adjust my action. We're not getting any buzzing. This guitar always played well. Let's just make sure with a good tuner that we're ready. And then we're going to plug it into the amp and see if it makes any noise there. Boy, I hope it does after all the work that I did. Come on, baby. Dead on. Dead on. One thing I did not check was the intonation, but I'd be surprised if that's off. I'll tell you why, because usually they get that right, but let's see. Dead on. Dead on. Dead on. Man, that is so dead on. I don't know how it is that they always get that right, and they always get the angle right. You have to get the right, the right radius for the neck with your bridge, because you can't move it up and down individually. You can only go side to side, or up here and up here, or down here and down here, just like a tune-o-matic. So she's all tuned up. She's ready to rock. I got the wrong long amp on here. I love it. That's both. That's the bridge. Sorry, all that, I wasn't in the video. New strings, new electronics, new everything on this guitar. Blackjack with 396 guitars. Thanks for hanging in there with me. This guitar is done and it's ready to rock, and I think I'm going to take it to the studio this Saturday, which is in a couple of days. I'm playing with my band, and I'm going to hand this over to a couple of different guitar players and tell them to put it through its paces, because I'm a bass player and I can only do so much on a guitar. We'll talk soon. Remember, if you dig what I'm doing, like and subscribe.